Why is the death benefit maybe one of the most underrated parts of the whole life policy and the IBC setup that people should know about and care about? Welcome back to episode 5 of our Infinite Banking series, where we're breaking down the questions that we're most frequently asked when we go to these investor events, and we share how this one concept has helped us build over $50,000 a month in passive income. So the question at hand today is, what is the perfect IBC policy design? Is there one? And we're going to let you know. Now, if you've missed the previous 4 episodes that we've done in this series, I'll point you back to our YouTube page. The very last one, Stallion, we broke down exactly how much money you need to get started, and we proved that you don't need millions to become your own bank.
But then the natural next question is, if I'm putting money into a whole life policy, how long does it take? I mean, it's years until that cash value actually grows. I mean, if you've heard Dave Ramsey and Susie Orman, they've told you this is the most terrible place that you can put your money. And you know what? They'd be right. If you were just going to buy a regular off-the-shelf whole life insurance policy from your brother-in-law or a guy from Northwestern Mutual that keeps calling you and asking you for referrals, Dave and Susie would be completely right. You will be disappointed, let me tell you. But today we're going to actually focus in on our mentor, Mr. Nelson Nash himself, and his design as he outlines in his book, Becoming Your Own Banker, where he talks about this isn't just a standard whole life insurance policy. This is a specially designed, engineered, dividend-paying whole life insurance policy, the type where we're going to put as much cash as the IRS will allow while buying the smallest death benefit allowed so that it still qualifies as life insurance. But the entire secret to this is that now we have to determine how much of the money that we put in goes to base premium and how much of the money goes to a paid up additions rider. These are the 2 levers that really help you specifically design a policy.
Yeah, I'm going to say that the so-called gurus, right, in this space get this wrong more often than not. And you'll probably learn more over the next 10 minutes than most of them have learned at all. So this is a big part for us to lean in and talk about, Joey. So base premium, right? There's 2 different types of premiums. The first one is base premium. What does that mean? Well, this is the minimum required. We're talking about a whole life insurance policy. Joey, how long is someone going to pay a base premium for?
I'm going to say whole life.
That's right. There's a good connector there. So we're talking long-term focus. Now, I know people are going to say, but what happens if something happens to me later? Can I stop it? And the answer is yes, we can answer that at a different time. But I want to talk about this base premium. And some people like to refer to this as the flywheel effect. If you've ever read the book Good to Great, great business book. If you're a business owner, you hadn't read that, like, do this, put that on Audible for yourself. Jim Collins, he talks about this concept of the flywheel. It's whenever you're working on one specific thing for long periods of time, and it takes lots of effort early on, and it creates small amounts of movement. But like a flywheel, he's talking about this huge flywheel. The more you push on it, the more effort you put in, eventually that momentum starts spinning. And once that big, powerful force gets moving, now it kicks off great amount of energy. Well, I'm going to share with you that that is exactly how the base premium works in a whole life policy. So many people poo-poo on base policy, but this is the engine to everything we're talking about. Early on, the cash value does build up slowly, but after time, after momentum, it actually builds up to a point where the cash value is growing at a much greater rate than the premiums you're putting in, and that system starts working for you instead of you always having to work for it. So I'm going to give a visual here. If you're watching this on YouTube, this is what typically happens in a whole life policy. Year 1, you put $1 in base premium, you get access to about 10 cents of it, right? This is where early on I was like, what? Why would you put this in there? Because I didn't understand. I assumed every year thereafter would be that. But in year 2, Stallion, if you notice, you put $1 in there. How much money showed up in the account of cash value for that specific year?
Yeah, you're at 60 cents year 2.
But in year 3 now, I put $1 in, I got access to roughly 90 cents of that dollar put in. Remember, I have the previous year's $2 from those 2. But in year 4, this is where we get about even Steven, right? I put in $1, I get access to $1. So for those keeping track at home, if I'm comparing this to a checking account, I've got $4 in my checking account. But here, no, I've got about $2.60. I'm a little bit behind. But notice what happens in year 5, Stallion. I put $1 in. Now my access to cash value for that dollar's premium is $1.05. I'm starting to see movement. And if I compare that to other cash instruments, this is where it starts to catch up. Now, I can tell you with certainty it does this because I bought an insurance policy back in 2010. And when you look at this on the screen, Joey, what do you notice over the last 11 years? The black equals the premium, the base premium I put in. The green shows you the cash value growth for that year. What is noticeable for those who are not looking at the screen today?
Yeah, it's more than 2 times what you put in it.
No, and that's the big part about this, right? So the base premium, minimum required, long term, it also generates the majority of the dividends and it's focused on the death benefit. Now, why is the death benefit maybe one of the most underrated parts of the whole life policy and the IBC setup that people should know about and care about?
Well, if you read the insurance contract itself, you're going to see this very specific language. The policy matures at age 121. At maturity, the company will pay the face amount to the owner. Now, the face amount meaning the death benefit.
Yep.
That is essentially saying that the policy is contractually guaranteed that the cash value must grow to equal the death benefit at a future place. Now, why is that important? Well, if the cash value is guaranteed to grow to meet your death benefit, do you want a small death benefit, Russ, or a very large death benefit?
I want the most cash value possible. So if those two are connected, yes, the death benefit has to be it. But the problem is, right, is when I pay the base premium, I get this big death benefit. It also incurs the most expenses. We always say that there are no deals in insurance. They're just trade-offs. Now, there's another point here, Joey, is that we now have base premium. Now let's talk about the other side of this, the paid up additions rider. This is an area that gets a lot of attention. People focus typically on this, and we need to talk about this and its importance because it is very valuable. This is the part that we put in money and it's optional. It's extra, right? It's typically focused on the short term because we're looking at the instant cash value. I have a buddy of mine. He loves to refer to the paid up addition riders, or I'm going to use the acronym PUA, as rocket fuel. I don't know if you watched the Artemis rocket launch, Joey. My son and I were watching this. And one of the things that you notice when a rocket is launched into space is that almost 90% of its fuel is used just to try to to get it out of gravity, right? Like 90% is used in like the first mile and a half of its flight. Well, very similar. That's the way paid up additions riders work for a whole life policy. It's front loading the cash value growth immediately, gets the policy going. Let me show you physically what I'm saying. When I put $1 into paid up additions riders in year one, and unlike my base premium where I only had like 10 cents, I got like 0.96, or 96 cents of every dollar I put in, right? This is a huge benefit that most people love. Well, if you notice, Joey, in year two, I put $1 in. How much cash value of that dollar do I get for PUA?
You're still at 96 cents.
What about year three?
Still at 96 cents.
And four?
In fact, it's going to keep going because the percentage of cash value that dollar creates per premium dollar will always stay the same in a PUA versus, as you just pointed out, the base premium percentage get bigger and bigger over time. In fact, you gave the example of when you put in $1, it's kicking off too. But I'll tell you this, I remember specifically, Russ, when we would meet with Nelson, he pulled out of his shirt. I don't know if you remember this at lunch. Was kind of awkward, but it was really cool. He pulls out of his shirt his most recent statement from his original policy. It was like over 50 years old. He had put in $1 premium and it was kicking off $8 to $10 per dollar he put in premium.
And for fairness to Nelson, the way that Joey said that seemed a little weird. Nelson had just stopped by his mailbox on his way to meet us at a little hamburger joint right around. And Nelson loved to ride his bicycle everywhere he could. And so he had stopped by his mailbox. He put the mail inside of his shirt because he didn't have like a backpack or something like that. But he definitely was excited to show us. He was digging his shirt. It was a little bit weird there for a second, but that was the reason behind that. Well, Joey, the paid up additions riders, right? Why is it that you get 96 cents of every dollar you put in as compared to the base?
Well, because the PUA is going to buy much lower amounts of death benefit, which, as we already said, is where all the expenses are. So it creates the least amount of expenses as a result.
But there's no deals, right? There's no deals in life insurance. They're just
Exactly.
trade-offs. So you're just making an adjustment, right? You're making an adjustment between the death benefit, the cash value, long-term growth, short-term access. How many summers do you have left with your kids? 10, maybe less?
And are you spending them together, or are you still stuck in the office while time slips by?
You want freedom. That's not the problem. The problem is you don't have a system that buys back your time. Without it, 3 years from now, your kids will be older and they won't care that your business was more successful. They'll remember you weren't there.
That's why we built the Passive Income Operating System, the plan we use to create over $50,000 a month in passive income. The system isn't free, but the training that shows you how it works is, and it's under an hour.
Go to wealthwithoutwallstreet.com/PIOS. Take the first step to buying back your time now. There is a pendulum, and why we say that most people get this wrong is because they don't think about all the things that go into it. So when you're trying to decide how much money should I be putting toward the base premium, how much should be going to the PUA, you have to know what is your goal. What is the so what to that goal, and by when do you need to accomplish it? Is it, right now you may have money available in cash, and that will dictate how much money that you need to get access to immediately, right? If you already have other permanent life insurance policies with cash value, well, that's very accessible. Or maybe you've got money sitting in checking accounts. Maybe you don't need as much money in the PUA because of the base premium. But if you've got a lot of money in different investments that counts or qualified plans and you can't touch it, that could dictate how much money you would want to be putting in there. Well, what about also if you're thinking about who are you going to insure, right? Are you going to insure yourself? Maybe you want to insure your spouse. Maybe you're thinking about insuring somebody in your company and that's a key person, or you're insuring your kids. All of those things, Joey, dictate what percentage should be going toward the base versus the PUA because the outcomes are different. What is your health like? People don't consider that this is life insurance. Some people are not as healthy as others. If somebody is unhealthy, Joey, why would that matter as to how much money goes toward base or PUA?
And I'll tell you this from personal experience, you want the most you can get in death benefit at that point because you're not guaranteed to ever get it again, right? I mean, that's a huge factor.
Well, other factors that could play into this is also timing. Are you retiring soon? But maybe your income is going away, and that needs to dictate how long you're putting maybe the paid up additions riders on there. What about, you're exiting a business or you're selling a big piece of real estate, and maybe you need a big place to put that cash. Nelson Ash talked about this in his second book about preparing for windfalls, right? Or you're maybe thinking about aspirations for your legacy and maybe having a trust on it. All of these factors dictate what the percentage should be of going to base versus PUA. The other part is use cases, Joey. Is this just going to be for your emergency reserve? Or is this something that you're going to use for business? Like maybe you want to incentivize certain teammates on the to stay with the company longer, or to incentivize them to, if they reach certain goals. Well, these are all different metrics, and the timing of needing these dollars are different. So that's why PUA and base premium always have to matter, and we need to analyze this differently.
Well, and if you think about it, I mean, there's a ton of variables. Russ just kind of, went through a litany of them that affect exactly how you should set this up. So it's definitely more of an art than a science. And I'm going to just tell you the biggest red flag when someone is designing your infinite banking policy is this. I always put 40% to base and 60% to PUA. Or I always put 90% to PUA and only 10% to the base. If you hear this from an agent, you need to run. And here's why. You are not dealing with a professional coach. You are literally working with an amateur. If you want to work with an actual coach who's professional, who understands exactly what we're talking about, all the variables, all the things, you need to reach out to one of our coaches. These guys have worked with thousands of people to set up the very system that we're talking about. Go to wealthwithoutwallstreet.com/free call. That's wealthwithoutwallstreet.com/free call.
All right. So the answer, is there a perfect policy design? Yes. The one for you, the one that matches the exact goal. Between Joey and I, we have over 40 whole life policies on almost 20 different lives.
And
They're
we're applying
all-
for more right now.
And we are applying for, and they're all designed differently. There's not one perfect design. And I want to reiterate what Joey said. If you're listening to someone who's telling you that you should always do it one way, you're not working with the right person. They don't understand the mechanics that go behind it. Maybe it works for that one situation, but it doesn't necessarily work for all of them. Now, if these are the type of videos and content that you like, we want to keep you fed with new ones. So the next one, Joey, that we need to break down are those use cases. We talked about a lot of those a second ago. I was flying through so many different use cases of how to do it. So when we come back, let's start on a use case scenario for those of you who want to figure out ways to use infinite banking to do more than just pay off debt. That's one option. But maybe you want to buy assets. Maybe you want to figure out how to use this in your business. We're going to start covering those next. Make sure to hit the subscribe button. Thank you so much for listening in. Have an amazing day.
This podcast is for informational purposes only and does not constitute financial, legal, or investment advice. Please consult a professional advisor before making decisions based on what you hear on this show.
This has been the Wealth Without Wall Street podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to the show to break free of the Wall Street mindset and begin building wealth on your own terms in places you understand so that your wealth will never run dry. See you next episode.